Yeah.
And I don't really miss good sentence because of watching, but that's just where it's.
No.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
And this is like, it's probably the same. He's like, to me, it's like,
Shot of insulin, you were the gas. Oh my gosh.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
A second? We have a motion and a second. All of those in favor of adopting the agenda? Thank you. And can we get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second
A motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. All of those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, Board of Ed acknowledgements. So we'll just start by saying thanks for being here, and we want to acknowledge Veterans Day since we're meeting on Veterans Day today. So I know some of the schools celebrated, so that's awesome, and can't wait to hear all about it. So happy Veterans Day to everybody. Are there any other Board of Ed acknowledgements? One thing I was going to mention, just because I think it's a good reminder, I wanted to go over our mission statement just because we haven't verbally said that for a while, and I had read one of the emails recently from KASB, and it was talking about the eight characteristics of effective school boards, and one of the main points was making sure that you're always focusing on your vision and your mission. So I was just going to remind everybody, it is also on our board docs. It's on the website, but just as a reminder, the Paola School District mission is academic success and personal growth for every student. So just want to remind everybody and make sure we're always keeping that in mind as we make all of our important decisions. So, okay, who's next? Mr. Hines, do you want to go first?
I'll go first. I got two quick things and then a funny for you, and I'll let Aaron go. Tomorrow at 2:15 in the afternoon, Kansas Supreme Court, they're doing a traveling tour around the state. They selected Miami County for one of their tour stops this year. So we're going to have a Supreme Court justice, a district court judge. Samantha's going to be there as well. So I'm looking forward to having our juniors and seniors get a chance to learn a little bit about our judicial branch. And the other thing I wanted to point out, it's not in writing and official yet, but an email went out to our entire staff. The advisory has all been told, but Mary Beth Rain's planning to retire at the end of this year after 40 years at Paola High School. So that will come across at some point on the consent agenda list for you. And then for Veterans Day today, if you remember back to August at the middle school, we invited Kenny Thomas to come speak. He was the veteran that was part of the Black Hawk Down mission that they made the movie about. So I texted him today and just told him thank you for his service, and he sent me a nice picture back. He went and spoke at his kids' elementary school, and he said, the kids drew pictures for us. My favorite one said, thank you for dying for our country. So, there you go. He had a crying emoji, but the point is that it was really special for him to go and speak. The kids are starting to learn what it means to be a veteran versus Memorial Day. And so it was just nice to interact with him today. So that's all I had.
Thanks.
Activity-wise, we're pretty, well, we are done. Cheerleaders go to state here coming up next week. I don't know, it's very quick here to their game day for their state competition. That's the only thing we have left really as far as fall athletics go. Wanted to give a shout out to Ellen Needham. She placed 3rd overall in 4A cross country. do not want to give a shout out to Keisha because they sent us north instead of south. Had we gone south, our girls cross country team would have, and we've always gone south directionally. I fought with them and lost. Had we gone south to Chanute, our girls cross country team would place first in the region instead of fourth as a team up there. So the team didn't get to go, but we qualified a couple of individuals. So we would have then taken our team from the south out there and ended up somewhere in the top 5, probably. So just, that's how it is. We've been the beneficiary of it several times. We just got it this year. Also want to talk about our Athletic Hall of Fame real quick. We recognized
Drew Henry.
thank you, yeah, Drew Hen in the fall because he couldn't come back last year because he was overseas. But this year we are inducting 2 people, Preston Martin, 4-time state wrestling champion, and then Maddie Morgan. We will be bringing them in during basketball season a little bit later on. And then the last thing is I want to wish Jeff a happy 51st birthday.
46.
Oh, 46. Sorry. Today was his birthday.
I think somebody else's is later this week too.
Maybe.
I'll go next. Last week, Matt, Melinda Chapel, and I were able to attend the Blue Ribbon Ceremony out in Washington, D.C., and, you know, just a great experience. It was very inspiring to be around all those other schools and to just know that we were part of that. So very, very inspirational. Today we did our Veterans Day program, and we had 57 veterans there, and they were, of course, very complimentary of the program. Our students did a fantastic job, and our teachers put on a fabulous breakfast. All staff makes the breakfast, brings everything in, and it's just funny, you know, the veterans going through like, oh, they made my favorite again this year. It's like they come expecting, you know, biscuits and gravy and a certain egg casserole, and staff did not disappoint them.
I'll go ahead and go. So just to continue on Veterans Day Assembly, so we had ours today as well. And I thought our kids did an amazing job, and it was good to see the veterans in there. And was talking with one of the veterans afterward, and he's been several times since we've had it, but I knew he wasn't there last year, and he kind of talked to me about that he had a foot surgery or something, but he had told me that, you know, for the longest time he wouldn't ever go to any of them because he thought it was a big political stunt that the schools were putting on or whatever, and somebody finally talked him into coming to one, and he said it's been the best thing ever. So glad to hear that, and glad that our veterans take part in that because I really think it's kind of a cool thing. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Melody Bain. We had this on our Facebook page as well, but she was selected for the State Honor Choir. And so there were over 800 kids that tried out for that, and they only selected 180, so that's pretty cool for her to get that honor. And she actually sang today at our Veterans Day Assembly as well, so pretty cool stuff going on with our kids.
And to wrap it up here, over at Cottonwood, we also celebrated Veterans Day in a little toned down style for the littles. Have to explain what a veteran is, and that's not someone who cares for your dog or cat, and is someone who served. Talk about that, but we did have a couple of veterans in to speak to the kids and talk to them about that. Kennedy Voss's dad served in the Marine Corps for several years. I got to go and talk to kindergartners, and he said it was a lot more difficult than the Marine Corps was. So, kidding, but I'm glad to have them and proud to honor our local veterans as well and to share that with our kids. I'm excited to highlight we have a family reading night coming up November 21st. We're hosting Cottonwood families to come and learn about a little about science of reading, but talk to teachers and learn about different activities that they can do at home with their kids and help encourage our kids to read and to just kind of discover the joy of that. So looking forward to that. Board members are always welcome to attend that as well, November 21st. And just a thank you for attending, those who could make it, the last school site visit at Cottonwood that we hosted, and I know a lot of the teachers were, a lot of positive feedback on that. They mentioned they're glad to see board members there that can make it, and that meant a lot to them too. So thank you for coming to that.
Mr. Riffle, the family reading night on the 21st is at 6?
6 o'clock, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep, lasts about an hour, 6 to 7. Cookies will be served.
Anybody else for board acknowledgements? Okay. Okay, we will move on to the information and discussion items. First up, we have the Sunflower Blue Ribbon Celebration, November 19th. Stacy, would you like to talk any more about that?
No, it's at 9 o'clock. We hope that you all can make it. We'll have a special chair for you, and if you want to say anything, you are welcome to do that.
Great, thank you. And we have our next special Board of Education meeting at Sunflower this month. It's November 26th at 7 a.m. So we really enjoyed going to Cottonwood that last time, so now we get to go to Sunflower and see what else is happening over there. Next up, we have teacher and staff monthly appreciation. Matt's going to talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so first off, backtrack real quick, superintendent's evaluation, you should have that.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
If you will, the process is, if you will fill it out individually, you email that, or you can send it to Laura Lee, then she compiles it as a group, and then at next meeting, then there'll be an executive session where you'll have the results of everything. You'll discuss all that as a board, and then you'll meet with me afterwards for that. So by December 2nd, that just gives her some time to get everything compiled. The teacher staff monthly appreciation. Mrs. Potter Partial asked about starting a monthly appreciation for teachers and staff, and I'm talking with her and so forth. I'd reached out to a couple other districts and that have similar programs and so forth. And so what you have for you today is an idea to see if the board would be interested and some feedback. What you have is what I liked is from a different district is they actually have, it's a Google form or a survey, if you will. There's a link on the website, so anyone can fill out this recognition or submit a recognition. So that could be anybody from the community. It could be a staff member, but that link would be available. We would advertise that, and then we would review it, and then monthly what they do is they have a couple different, they'll lump they'll put the teachers in a group, and then the auxiliary classified staff in a group and so forth, and really if there's multiple, then they randomly draw a name is what they do, but just to try to help recognize. One of the things that Morley helped me with is there's a couple different just little tokens, if you will, like a logo type mug, or one of them's a backpack or something that we could give to staff in recognition of that. So those are kind of ideas. There's nothing set in stone. It's just a kind of conversation. Is this something we want to pursue? We would, if we do, we would start at second semester in January. So do we want to do we want to pursue this? B, is a link and kind of the questions that we're asking. Is there anything you would want to change on that? And then ideas, if it's a little token for appreciation. Is there something different or something like what Laura Lee has found works? So
I like the idea.
And I like the idea of having students and people, or parents and people from across the district actually nominate them, because that was one of the things I wasn't sure about how to make it work. So
Yeah, I think that's neat.
randomly be drawn between the people who are nominated, or would there be waiting over why they were nominated or anything, or? I'm just asking,
I mean,
curiosity.
What I've asked the other districts and stuff is they look and verify that it's a legit nomination, because when you put a link out there for
Yeah.
anybody, but if it's a legit nomination and so forth, then it's random.
Then it's random.
Yeah. Because what's hard about it is, it's hard to compare sometimes different levels, or if somebody writes really well versus somebody else that doesn't, and to try to compare. And so just, hey, this is worthwhile. Somebody it was noticed. Of course, we would, let other people know, hey, that we have this and so forth. But, if somebody was nominated, if it wasn't this month, it could roll over too. So, that's what my thought had been, to try to make it to where I don't want it to become subjective or based off, how well somebody wrote or.
No, yeah.
Would it be possible to do things like gift cards or something to like local businesses so we could?
We cannot purchase and give gift cards. Gift cards would
Gotcha.
would have to be donated. Jimmy can speak to gift
Gotcha.
cards, but that's not, you can give something, a material thing.
Yeah.
But gift cards, because it's.
Yeah, if it's cash, the IRS frowns on that as an employee, and then you have to tax them on it,
Got
so.
it.
They rain on everybody's parade, it's not Jimmy's rules.
All right, no,
Yeah.
we're off to the.
Yeah. So that's one.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
So then with this form getting filled out, would we pass it along to each teacher even if they didn't get their name necessarily drawn? Just as a way to encourage them and let them know that they're making a difference. I think that's awesome.
Maybe we as a board could take turns, like writing like a note to them, letting them know that they've been nominated, and our appreciation to them.
Yeah.
I like that better than just sending them an email and saying, hey, you were nominated.
Well, just like actually giving them like what.
Right, but I'm saying doing that in an actual personal touch.
Right.
Versus just electronically.
Because one of the questions that we have here is, can the middle school share the nomination wording with the employee?
Yeah.
Right.
The actual wording
Yeah.
and so forth.
I like it a lot.
I don't think there needs to be any formal approval. Just if
Right.
that's something to move forward with, and we can get that started. Okay?
And thanks for adding that to the agenda.
Yeah, you bet.
Great, thanks for bringing it up.
Okay, next up, we've got cost of living. Jimmy, you're gonna talk to us about that?
Yeah, presentation will be up here. This is in board docs, but we'll go over just a few slides talking about cost of living and then whatever discussion that you want to have after. So cost of living authority is what we're talking about. So a little background on this first slide about what cost of living is, how you become eligible for it. So it's based on the average appraised value of homes in your district. And the district has to qualify each year to be eligible to levy what's called cost of living authority. So there's the statute, if you really want to look that up, talks a little bit about what you can do there in the levy. Some of the steps, and we'll get into some of the details to be able to take advantage of cost of living. I've mentioned this in the past several years over budget presentation time. But to take advantage of it, the local school board has to adopt a resolution to authorize that tax. You have to publish the resolution as a legal notice to your community that you're considering that in the general circulation newspaper in your district. For us, the Miami County Republic is our official newspaper. That's where a publication would happen. To do that, of course, that's the step that you have to take. A district has to have a local option budget, an LOB budget of at least 31%. And so again, because the reason I think behind that is, one, you have to be maximizing everything before you can take advantage of something else. The 31%, as you know, LOB, you can levy up to 33% of your general fund, which is what we do. But you can do up to 31%, the state average, without an election. We've had an election to be able to go to 33. So I think that's why the rules are that that's 31, not 33. So, because if you had to have 33, you'd have to have the election, and so that would be a requirement that you could meet very easily, but not an issue for us. But you have to levy at least a 31% LOB. So for the 24-25 budget year, there were 29 districts in Kansas that are eligible. In Miami County, that includes Paola and Lewisburg. If you look at Lewisburg's budget, they've levied the cost of living for the past 3 fiscal years. And most all the schools in Johnson County, now there's other have a little piece of Johnson County, like Wellsville, for example, but the main Johnson County schools all qualify for and utilize cost of living. Because again, it's based on your assessed value of your housing. So this is information specific to our district. Going back to 1819 was the first year we were eligible, and it wasn't much. Well, the next slide will go into a little more detail about how the calculations work. But high level, so it's a percentage that the state comes up with. Percent of your general fund is what you get levied. So obviously in 1819, the percent was very low. It was only $5,000. Then it went to 0.1, about 0.5%. In 21-22, we weren't eligible. So I think that's a key to remember. This eligibility can change. So you want to be careful, in my opinion, what you would use it for. Not necessarily something that's an ongoing forever cost, because it can go away. Now, what's going to happen with housing costs? Are we going to become ineligible? The trend the last 3 years, we've gone from 1.18% to 2.4% to this year would have been 3.25%, and that's of your general fund. So you just do that math across. So you see it's grown from not a significant amount of money to zero. 165,000, 357,000. This year would have been $511,000 that we could have levied to help with operations. This is the nitty-gritty from KSDE. I've highlighted ours. If you want to know kind of some of the details, I won't try to explain how they come up with the formula, but basically they're coming up with the percent here. So in essence, it looks again your total appraised value, how many parcels of property you have, the average value. So for us, $327,000. They compare that to the state average, which is $245,000, and so they come up with our amount above the average. So we're $79,517 above the state assessed value average. That comes up with this factor and the percent, and again the general fund. So that's just the history back in there. I've even got a little more on those other slides than what shows on this KSD spreadsheet. Again, cost of living, this is the Form 150, and this is our current year. Down here, this line 15, that's where that would show up if we were taking advantage of that this year or in the future. Again, it's stated there you have to have at least a 31% LOB, pass the resolution to be able to consider levying that. This is the actual budget code, again, out of our budget this year. We did not levy it, so it's all blank there, but it shows what that would look like. It's very basic. And then the expenditure just transfers out of that fund. So again, it would be on the code 99. Now we're zero in that area. This would have a dollar amount there in the overall notice of hearing. That's the code 99, as we call it, showing your total mill levy and your total tax to be levied. So again, that's the same dollar amount carried forward that could be levied. It runs through the general fund, so in turn you would get the local option budget percentage of that. And so that's the total potential funding in this current year that it would have been. So what does that look like? So this was a little bit of a projection. You'll probably recognize this chart from my budget presentation. So about our mill levies, general fund wouldn't change. If we had levied it this year, the local option budget LOB would have gone up about 0.6 of a mil. Capital outlay not affected. The cost of living, that total $511,000 would be a mill of 2.096, so about 2 mils. Bond and interest, again, next year, you see we've gone down from 9.8 to 5.69. We'll pay off next year, we'll levy 0. So again, that's going to be a decrease. This is the change column. Special assessment, we've not been levying, not changing. So you can see what our mill levy was this year. We went down 1.5. Next year, if we drop the bond and added the increase for the LOB and the cost of living, we would still have about a 3 mil decrease. Would still more than likely qualify as revenue neutral because we're going to be less than the current year. And the total dollars are still going to be going down, even if we adjusted the cost of living like that. So that is, again, a projection, kind of putting that into the budget, showing what it could look like next year with those going up and with the bonds going to 0. Again, this is just a repeat from my budget slide, because anytime we're talking about mill rates and things and adding to the levy, or not lowering as much as if all the bonds went all the way to zero. Again, this is where we were. Again, this is 2 years ago because they lag a little bit behind. You can go out and pull everybody's budgets this year, but this is the official from KSDE, always runs a year behind. But we probably fell down below what Lewisburg published their budget at. And again, if you see here, 44.9, Prairie View's 44.2. Depending on what they would do and what we might do, we would drop almost to the lowest in Miami County. So you can see kind of all the range, any school that has a piece of Miami County where they rank in mill levies. This again is a year lag, but this was the state average. This again is a slide from my budget presentation. So districts that levy the cost of living, this was the average, the state average of that mill rate, 2.159. So you can see we'd be right around there because ours was about 2 mils. Again, this is a repeat from my budget slide. The things that I had put in there that we don't levy, that we could consider. And again, this was in there as well, that we could utilize that for the 25-26 budget to increase operating funds while possibly maintaining revenue neutral status. So again, with our bond not passing, if there are things in there that we need to do building-wise that capital outlay is not sufficient to do, I think this is a good source to consider for those needs. This is the resolution. That would be the next step that the board would have to do, is to pass a resolution and then publish that in the newspaper. So high-level overview, but for whatever discussion or questions that you have. We can go back to some of the summary slides. If that to me is probably one of the more helpful.
Okay, and you said if we pass the resolution tonight, doesn't mean that we have to do this.
True.
But
yes.
we are just setting up our steps in case we want to.
Absolutely. And again, this is just on it for information tonight, so it can be future action at whatever point. It's just I wanted to give it to you. I mentioned it in years past and then again during the budget presentation, because if you want to have the option to take advantage of cost of living next budget year, we have to get those steps done. So whether you do that in December or whatever month, but you're correct. And then that you have to have that available. Within, again, we have to qualify. So that every year you have to qualify. And then when we do the budget, we would have the option at that point to levy it or to not. So this just gives us the option. If we don't do these steps, we can't even consider it.
Right. Okay, thank you.
What's the latest that resolution we need to be published by?
Well, it's got to be in the paper 30 days, and I think I'd have to play the date. I mean, we got to have it in place when we publish our budget next July. So, I mean, you wouldn't want it to be wait very long.
April, May would be at the latest
Yeah,
preference?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think it's something to consider. It's good just to get the publication, the legal notices done and out of the way.
Smart.
That can be done as early as next month. It just goes in the local paper, comes out, of course, every week. So that would take care of that. We are, of course, not going to make final decisions until next June, July time, but I don't like to wait till the last minute. But you technically could do it anytime before, probably May would be the latest, I would say. Thank you, Jimmy. You have a question? All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We do not have any open forum this evening. So now on to action items. We need to approve the Paola Middle School, Section D and E, new field house, and Cottonwood roof bid, and Jimmy is going to talk to us a little more about that.
Yeah, so all that information is in board docs. This was in capital outlay for this year. So we just got the bid results done. Those were due in on November 1st, and our roof consultant, Pat Frederick with Trimco, was here to kind of help facilitate that. So you see all that in board docs, the results. We had, what, six bids come in. And again, the roof bids is labor only. The materials we buy through Trimco, through Greenbush Purchasing Cooperative.
So that's pre-bid, that's why you see that in there in the bid sheet. All the green material estimates are static for everybody because they're all going to use the same materials. That actually came in a little bit less once Pat got everything through Greenbush, and there were a couple adjustments in materials. So while it shows 116,000 and change, it is a little bit less than that. It's $112,150.96. Again, we're only approving the labor bid tonight, but that's just a little under $4,500 less because of the adjustments. So the labor bids you can see in there, the middle school sections D and E is the bulk of the project. That's the low bid, $193,500 of their total. Some minor repairs to the field house roof of $2,600, and another minor repair that we touched on at Cottonwood of an expansion joint there in the front of the building, also $2,600. So $198,700 plus the materials. The total is $310,850.96. I'll point out that when we budgeted that capital outlay, it was budgeted at a total of $586,000. So it's the end result bid came in at about 53% of what we had projected, which is great. That's doesn't happen very often, but we love it when things come in under. So it's roughly half what we had budgeted. So that will leave some capital outlay funds to do other things. So let's see what else we're going to say. Oh, I know the last thing I was going to say. The bid too talks about when they will perform the work. Cornell Roofing would, and they've done work for us in the district before, some big projects as well. So we're familiar with them and the quality of their work. They would start March the 1st. These roof sections are kind of above the gym and the cafeteria. So part of the reason we get good pricing is they would start March the 1st. A lot of times we may not let them start until the summertime. Roofers are busy in the summer. So they're able to start earlier. There'll be a few things that'll be loud, like that's a gravel built up roof. They have to suck the gravel off these areas. They'll do that on the weekend or at night. Otherwise, during the day, it's pretty quiet operation. So, and there's no odor or low odor, and so it won't impact the learning of the school. And also it's above the gym and the cafeteria, so not your traditional academic areas where maybe you need the concentration. So that helps, I think, a lot with the pricing. Matt, what did I leave out on that?
Nothing. No.
Okay.
That's it. Anytime that we can bid early like what we have to try to get outside of that summer window when it's appropriate, then that's where we get the benefit of it. So anything anytime a crane has to do any work or whatever, that always happens when school is out. There's no one there. So we're comfortable with this and the timeline and pleased with the bids.
So really the board's just being asked to approve the labor bid, and that's that Cornell, the 198.7, so that hasn't changed. The material costs, what changed is pre-bid through a purchasing cooperative, but I just wanted you to know the update of that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the PMS, Section D and E, Field House, and Cottonwood roof bid?
So moved.
Okay, yeah. A motion?
They both motion.
She can have the motion, I'll take the second.
Super, thank you. Okay, a motion and a second to approve the bid. All of those in favor? Thank you. And then next, the paid ridership plan for less than 2.5 miles in the district. And Matt, you want to start with that?
Yeah, so Jimmy and I, and as you're aware, have been working with Kansas Central School Bus about providing an option for our students that live less than 2.5 miles that do not qualify for busing. In working with them, they have identified 4 routes that they have space on, and they can stop in town and accept up to 100 riders to be able to pick the kids up and so forth. These stops would not be at the front door. In the country, a lot of times it's stopped at in front of the house, or if you're in a development, it might be at the end of the street. In town, what they do is whenever everyone is signed up, then they look and see where those students are located, and then they try to come up with a central stop in an area that's fairly close. But most riders, depending on where would have to, or the students would potentially have to walk, 3 or 4 blocks, or depending on where that is. And so, working with them, what they're, and the information is included in board docs, but they would be taking, this would just be for second semester. Applications would need to be submitted by December 15th to be eligible. It would not be prorated, it would be a one fee, so it's for all of the semester. If somebody moved, there would not be a refund, so it's all or nothing. The cost for second semester for one child in a household would be $175. If there's 2 children in a household, so the first would be $175, the second would be $100. Any additional child after 2 would be at no cost. That money would go to Kansas Central. They would take care of it to pay for their expenses. Some of it would come to us, but all it would do is go right in to pay for fuel and so forth. So we're trying to keep this as a zero-sum game. We're not interested and have never been interested in making money off our patrons, and this would be the same. Kansas Central would take care of the sign up, payment, all of that, and then establish routes. So the goal would be to have December 15th as the deadline. That gives them a couple weeks before winter break. It's actually a pretty quick turnaround, so they can notify people for the start of the second semester. It would be on a first come, first served basis. If it hits 100, then that's how it would be capped at that. And if we don't, then we would provide. So this works for one kiddo up to 100 kiddos. I'm happy to answer questions. Jimmy, I appreciate Jimmy being a part of this and as we work through them, and I also appreciate Kansas Central School Bus to try to give this as an option. We know it's not, there is a fee involved, but we've tried to keep it as reasonable as possible. Doing it this way also allows us that if there's any tweaks that need to occur, that we can do that prior to having it for a year long. And so the goal would be next year, everything works out, that we would have a semester fee for first semester, second semester. Say if no changes, would be the same as that. But if you paid for a year, then there would be a decrease because you're talking about less office time and so forth for that. So that would be something that we would talk about but later. The other thing, I don't know issue, but the other thing we'll need to talk about for next year, currently if we have out of district students that meet a bus stop, meet a bus and ride, historically that has been allowed to occur because that has been started. We would continue to allow that for this school year. But for next year, then that would become part of the pay ridership program as well. Just because we started it the way we feel like we need to finish it the school year, but then that we would put that into effect for next year. Happy to answer any questions. But you would have had the document, the ridership program that the parents would see, the sign-up form that they would utilize, and then the memorandum of understanding between Kansas Central and us that would, when approval would be signed by Michelle tonight.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, I think it sounds great. So do we have a motion to approve the paid ridership plan for less than 2.5 miles?
I motion to approve paid ridership plan.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All of those in favor, please raise your hand. Perfect.
Thank you for looking at that. That's really for us.
I think that's great to be able to offer that.
Yes.
Okay, so next up we have the Red Cross MOU, and Matt, you're up.
This is actually a renewal, if you will. We have an agreement with American Red Cross for the use of our buildings in case of a natural disaster or for some reason. I think probably the closest to here was like Osawatomie floods, when they had that and so forth. I don't have everything listed. Because where it says facility, I will need to put, see attached, I do have a list of all of our 4 school buildings, and it also includes Hillsdale, because not knowing where it would need to be, and then contact information. And so, because of some of this, we have cell phone numbers and so forth that are on that for those facilities. So we've had this in place. It is just renewing it and updating some information. Part of it is, a cost, and we've agreed to waive a cost if we have a natural disaster or something we're dealing with. That's the last thing we want to do. We want to be a good community partner to try to help out. And so, happy to answer questions. Hope that we never have to use it, but it's in place just in case.
Are there any questions, discussion?
I'll make the motion to approve the facility use agreement form for the Red Cross.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All of those in favor of the Red Cross MOU?
Okay, Madam President, I move that we go into executive session with Matt to discuss personnel pursuant to personnel matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals to be discussed, and that we will return to open session in this room at
20 minutes. 7:12.
7:02.
Just say 7:05.
7:05. Thanks for rounding that up for us.
Second.
We were struggling.
Second. So you need a vote.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor? Thanks, everybody.
What are we doing? We're doing. deal for them.
It's a big deal for them.
We need to do is I just need to make a motion. Somebody does, we extend. I'd like to make a motion that we extend executive session to, I guess it would be 7:15.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? How's your day today?
Yeah. You're
Say
like
side by side, you're still off a little
cheering
bit.
for the final play.
Yeah. Well, that's in back in the airport to watch overtime.
That's all right. You know, you're-
Okay, can we get a motion to extend until 7:30?
I motion to extend to 7:30.
Okay, all those in favor?
Who seconded that? Kelly?
So that'll be 6.
You did it first. You did. Sean Miller and Amanda. Yeah.
6
Oh, 6.
I set it up for him. She spent her time making it there. That's okay. Nobody's gonna sign anything otherwise.
Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion. Go ahead, go ahead.
My motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Enjoy your evening.